To announce for this.
Okay. So the public can find our meeting out there.
If they go to the public media YouTube page, they can see it.
Okay.
Start going to recess.
Yeah, all right. So, well, I don't have.
So I'm sorry, Jane. What was
I
the?
don't
My
know
members here, I
who
don't-
has the login for this board.
Waiting for team, and it sounds like we're going to start.
Gene, where is it? So somebody has to log in to change that?
Yeah,
Live stream set up.
I told them, but
We can give them 5 minutes, and then we don't have to, because we can't postpone.
Sarah usually comes up before we all leave for technology.
Where is it?
Types in the name.
Types in to turn it off, like to shut it
Or is it
down.
just that board thing?
Oh, I see.
So the board has the old
so the
link
board's-
open.
Oh,
Oh, so the board's not right. So because this is right, but board is wrong.
This is yes.
Okay, now this is
Yep.
right.
So it is available to see,
But the board is not up to date.
but the folks in the
All right.
Right, which is the board.
Else, are we taking a recess? Or we just...
Yeah, let's open up and make sure we can maybe just take a recess,
All
make
right.
sure it's technical.
I'm going to call this meeting of the Woburn School Committee to order. Please rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the superintendent please call the roll?
Mr. Austin. Present. Ms. Chisholm.
Here.
Ms. Cormier.
Present.
Ms. Crowley.
Present.
Mr. Morenin. Present. Ms. Wetzel.
Present.
Mr. Lipset.
Present. All right. At this time, given that we have some technical issues with the board on the side there, we're going to take a brief recess, or I'd entertain a motion to take a brief recess.
So moved.
second.
This time, I'm going to ask for a motion to take the agenda out of order and hear from administration before we move in to public comment.
So
Do I have
moved.
such a motion?
Second.
All in favor of hearing from administration, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Dr. Crowley.
I have a few things to say. First, I think this process of redistricting is important to the Woburn Public Schools, and I do think that the Woburn Public Schools needs to redistrict. I think we've proven that. And so it is something that as a district we need to do. I remain concerned that our ECP problem still exists. So I want to go again on record saying that these options that are still with us don't fix the ECP problem that we know exists. I think that the option one that was voted is good. I'm not convinced how many years it would hold for before we would be coming back to it. The same as option 1A, the amended option. So I want to be clear with the committee and public how I feel about redistricting and what that means to the district. I want to go on record to some extent and talk about my concern about going through this process and doing something wrong and affecting a kid in a way that or a family or a staff member that we don't want to negatively impact, but we are, because we're going through a process at breakneck speed. I'm also concerned that we still do not yet have a school committee and city budget for FY25. Logistically, operationally, it's challenging to think about redistricting without knowing where we're headed for FY25. I can be more specific. In option 1, the PALS program moves to the Malcolm White, but it requires a nurse that's in the budget that's not yet passed. Recently, we've had an ERI, early retirement incentive, pushed out. We put it in our budget as a savings of $750,000 predicated on a survey. We now know that that number is much lower than $750,000, and so I'm not sure whether the city council or what the outcome of that will be on our budget. And people that put in for early retirement, ostensibly, I've had one person who put in and then pulled back because they weren't financially, weren't sure whether it made sense. Well, this makes the staffing of schools more complicated, and so I'm saying all this because there are a ton of variables in the air, and in many ways I like to be as complete and thorough as possible, and there's this unknown out there, and it's hard to sleep at night with all of these unknowns, and then thinking about our job is to take care of kids and families and our staff. And so when the committee voted on the 23rd, it was the 23rd, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the late night. And then we stayed for FY25 after the redistricting vote. And I want to, because he hasn't done it, I will recognize Mayor Concan and the city council members that are here.
I was going to.
Yeah.
I promise.
Yeah.
But the plan, when you voted on the 23rd, we were expecting to go to city council on the 29th. That next Wednesday, we were prepared to go, and because of a posting error, it's now postponed even further to June 6th, so this Thursday night. And so, again, from an operational side, it's challenging with an unknown of the FY25 budget. So I'll leave it there. That's my administrative update.
Thank you. Any questions for the superintendent on that update?
Well, do we want to hear from the public first, and then?
We can do that. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that if, as people were responding to that, we've already taken the agenda out of order, we can hear a little bit of that and then go to public comment.
I mean,
Ms. Cormier, go ahead.
Thank you. I had suggested we go out of order, partially because I was hoping that maybe if administration could explain their rationale, what they were going to explain to us later, it might be beneficial for the public before their public comment. I don't know if that's unwieldy or supported, but that was my thought behind it, that a lot of questions that people may have might be answered after the fact with that presentation, so that's what I was hoping to achieve with that.
I appreciate that. Okay. And we can come back to that in a minute. Mrs. Chisholm, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I agree that this has gone, way gone past what we had as our end date to make decisions. And it's not anything that we could control. I mean, when we first thought we'd get this report, probably early May, and that we'd have our public comment, and we'd listen to people, and we'd react to it. And normally, in the past 24 years, we've had our budget passed by mid-May, and would be able to actually dive into this with realities, instead of guesses and dreams and hopes. And the fact that we still don't have a budget, I could not support anything until we do. Because we cannot say to somebody, yep, we'll provide busing, or yes, we're going to get an extra nurse, or yes, we'll be able to do this, when we don't know. You know, and it's just, and even with the earlier incentive, I mean, it's just, people aren't happy that was pulled back. And I just think that that's, you know, morale-wise, that's not a good thing and a good place to be. So it's difficult for me to just vote on anything that we don't have definite numbers on. It's not, I mean, we've tried. We've had many, many meetings to try to make sure the public is fully aware of what we're doing. But without a bottom line, I mean, we may be laying off teachers and not adding the ones we need. And I totally agree, we need to do redistricting, and I feel bad these schools are overcrowded, but we also don't know what's going to happen next year. And we could go through this whole process and move these 181 kids and end up next year getting more kids and having to move everybody back. So I will tell people, if they have their T-shirts from the elementary schools, keep them, because they may be wearing them again in 2 years. So it just makes me very uncomfortable this late in the game to do this to people. We have, 12 days left of school, 11 days left of school, and we're not going to be able to give them the time to go and tour their schools and everything else that we had promised them that we would do. So I, for one, will not make a promise that I can't wholly and wholeheartedly agree with. I mean, others may be able to do that, I can't. So I'm just hoping that we can take this information and build on it, and maybe next year, after our October dates, we have our students in school, we'll know. But that's my thoughts.
So,
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I was alluding to is the timelines of notification.
Right.
And I will say, though, that we can do it. I want to be clear. I'm just saying, like, it's,
Rushed. And not to have a conversation
Yeah.
back and forth, and I know many, many hours have been spent on this, and I don't want it to say like it's in vain, but it makes me very nervous doing it this way. So I just.
but
I think
again, I want to, we presented you with options. You selected an option. It can be done. So I want to share that. It's just, I also want to share the other things that I did.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
All right. Other members? Ms. Crowley?
I regrettably am starting to feel the same way Mrs. Chisholm is. I thought about this for multiple days now, and if we don't have we're not funded, we don't have appropriation, and we have staff moving around at the same time that we have children moving around, I just fear, just some social, emotional issues for the kids, being assigned to a teacher, and then maybe that teacher having to, so it's becoming more clear to me that if you don't have a fully funded budget, and you are facing staff loss, to also redistrict at the same time feels just, I'm starting to just feel the same way that Ms. Chisholm is feeling. And if we're not doing the long-term ECP, which was my initial position, then we're just doing this and we're playing the same broken record. So that's just how I'm thinking about this today after doing some deep thinking about it and looking at the reality of the situation. You know, it felt good to pass what we passed last time because, oh wow, we're solving this problem, we're moving Earl Wyman children to the Reeves, and we're really opening up space. But now it feels like, well, what if we don't have those teachers anymore? And then what are we going to do? Move the kids back? And it's starting to feel like, it's just starting to feel like it's not possible.
Okay. Ms. Watson?
Excuse me. Yes. So I have to agree with what's been said as well. You know, that gut feeling, that feeling really you get in the bottom of your stomach where you're just not sure what you're doing at that moment is the right thing. Since we've been talking, I've had similar questions regarding the budget, like how can we move students around and then we might not have staff for them. Similar to what Dr. Crowley said, the ECP program, as we know, it's the fastest growing program that we have. And we're talking about doing a task force, which I think is wonderful and we should. I don't know how quickly, and I've been asked this question by members of the public as well, is how quickly would that task force be assembled and how quickly would they find space for the ECP? And then how quickly can we move the ECP, and then would we then be moving students around again? And would all of that happen before the building committee decides on a plan and we can build buildings? So we don't really know the answer to those questions right now. And without knowing also the budget, it definitely gives me reservations, as I really feel, and I've talked a lot about this, it's super important that these kids have an opportunity to view their schools before the end of the school year, and teachers have an opportunity to do the same, and there's a sense of closure. And I say all of this knowing there's families sitting in the audience right now that have been moved not once but twice in these different plans, so I can only imagine also what's going through their heads as we're talking now about maybe not moving in general. The same goes for the staff. So I think this is very emotional for everybody, but I also think we need to remember that we are dealing with people and we're dealing with budgets that we're trying to figure out and a lot of moving parts. So I think it's something that we need to keep in mind. And I would be really curious, and I don't know if we have an answer right now, but how quickly we could assemble an ECP task force and potentially make something work for the early childhood program, because I do obviously think that's a big concern in general, not just with this plan, but in general where those students would go.
I can address the first, which is that my plan was to begin assembling the ECP task force pretty much immediately. I cannot answer the second.
Thank you.
I don't know if
I'm good. Thank you so much.
Mr. Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could, first and foremost, I want to commend the superintendent for his comments opening up this meeting tonight. I know it's very difficult, and I know the chairperson would probably ask everybody to refrain from clapping, but I think, you know, the superintendent and his staff, you know, obviously deserve a big round of applause for what they've done thus far this evening. And I just didn't know, Mr. Chairman and Superintendent Administration, we've heard from the superintendent where we're still out of order. I didn't know. I don't want to put the principals or assistant principals on the spot to maybe hear kind of their thoughts moving forward or not moving forward, just how it may affect their building. If not, we can move along. But I just also just wanted, you know, thank the superintendent for his comments this evening.
I don't think we can ask the principals to comment on this at this time, and I appreciate the thought.
And I don't feel like I deserve a round of applause either.
No, it's not easy.
These are tough jobs, and you know none of this feels good. I can tell you that, and
Appreciate
the priority should be kids, and doing it right. when we do something, and our staff, who deserve the respect for what they do each and every day. And so, yeah, I want to reiterate how, like I did to Ms. Chisholm the other moment. You can move forward and have us go, and we will go, like, because you voted to do that. And so I don't want to take that away from anybody. That's all. I want to be clear.
Ms. Cormier.
Thank you. So I have some information on why 1A was done, and I know we voted to have option 1 operationalized, and the administration, as I understand it, then looked at the equity, which was a concern that came up a lot for the Shamrock, chose to leave the PALs at the Reeves, which I think is great. I think I support that if that's something that works. I was concerned about the ECP with that change, if that was something that would make the ECP situation more dire. My dream was that the task force would put in an order for some modulars for ASAP, and by a year from now or whatever, how long it takes to build one, we would maybe have some to start to alleviate the concerns there. In the meantime, while we're waiting for the Building Capital Planning Committee to make a final choice on what to do to ideally help with that. But I understand that the public has concerns, is confused about how things have moved when they thought, and I also thought that was what we were working with. But I understand the rationale for the moves, and I support the administration and what they've put together thoughtfully and needed more time to do than they originally thought, because that's something that was done mindfully. I know you guys were working around the clock and trying to get this done. So I still support it. I still think I'm art on a cart and library on a cart. It's prison library to me, and it's a really dire situation. It's really something unfortunate for everybody to have to do if we can do something else. And I know it affects one family is a lot of family. It's, I understand that. I hate for them to be affected, but we are also planning long term. We're trying to look at 10 to 15 years. And with the budget situation, I kind of was crossing my fingers and hoping that things would work out, and so that we could do the things we were planning to do for this. We've talked, people have been going back and forth about whether things are cuts or not. We have to add the positions we have to add, so if we don't get the number we need, we are cutting jobs. People that are currently employed by the Woburn Public Schools will lose their jobs because we have to add what we need to add. It's not level funding. It's level funding, to be fair, the increases that we have. And those losses, while maybe those people could pick up one of the new jobs, still is a loss of whatever they were doing before, whether it was French, Italian, art, whatever. And so to me, people have been arguing semantics about cuts, but to me that is a cut. Somebody losing their job and us having to remove somebody is a cut to what we are currently giving our kids, and we are trying to just give our kids the minimum that they need on top of whatever we're already doing. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Cormier. All right. Committee, I'm trying to determine how we are going to move forward right now. We've had discussion. We do have a public who is expecting to comment on option 1A, which we haven't really discussed yet. We have additional decisions that, if we are moving forward with option 1 or option 1A, would need to be determined. But it feels at this moment to me like there's another thing happening here. And so I'm not sure if there is a motion that people want to make, or if we want to hear from the public first and then continue deliberation. I would be open to thoughts on that.
I would like to make a motion that we return to the regular order of business to hear public comment.
I second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to return to the regular order of business and hear public comment. Do I have any discussion on that motion? Seeing none?
There's no sound.
There's no sound. Okay. Is that true?
Is that working?
Is that true? Has that been true the entire time?
I don't know.
Yeah, some people said that it started out fine and then they couldn't hear, and other people were responding saying, well, I can still hear.
Okay. All right. Then I'm going to take a
I'm
motion
hearing us right
to-
now, sir,
There-
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
He'll be back.
So
Okay.
it is currently.
Fine. And there's no need for an additional recess.
No.
Okay. So I go back to my initial, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of returning to regular order of business to hear public comment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we are going to hear from the public on anything regarding redistricting or anything that they wish to speak to the committee. And then we will continue with our agenda. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the committee? All right. So we are entering into public comment. Just a reminder that members of the public have 3 minutes to make their remarks. Again, it is not personal. I am going to hold people to that. I will give you a short warning, and then we will have to ask you to stop. Also, please refrain from any direct attacks against Woburn Public Schools staff. So, let me get my timer. There we go. All right. Go right ahead.
Hello, my name is Mr. Whipple. This is my daughter. I'd like to thank you all for working so diligently on this issue. I know that there are a lot of balls bouncing around, and you're not gonna make everybody happy. So, my daughter has something to say. Elizabeth, let's see if this works. Okay, what's your name?
Pull it very close.
What?
Pull the microphone
Microphone.
close.
There you go.
There you go.
This is an AC communication device. For those of you who have not heard it, it is very monotone, and it doesn't express emotions, so it will come out very flat. So, okay, what's your name?
My name is Elizabeth.
And where do you go to school?
I go to school at Reeves Elementary.
And where do you live?
I live at 2 Gately Drive in Woburn, Massachusetts.
Okay, what would you like to say to the committee? You would say, yep.
I am in the POWS program at the Reeves School. I heard that last week you made a vote that will move my program to a new school. Next year I will be in the 5th grade. I don't want to have to go to a new school for my last year of elementary school. At the Reeves I have friends who I have been with since kindergarten. I know all the teachers in the school and they know me. I have OT, PT, and speech. I know my way around the school without needing a teacher with me. If I have to go to a new school, I will have to get new teachers and I won't be able to get around by myself. Sounds very hard to me. I have heard you might let other 5th grades stay in the school for their last year. If you do, then I want to stay in my school too. Please don't make me move for 5th grade. I want to stay with my friends and my teachers who know me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Good job.
That deserves
All right.
a round of applause.
That is a hard act to follow, but
Yeah.
someone must. So. And you were under time.
Yeah, you still go 2 more minutes.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Parthasarathi. I live at 88 Fowle Street. I spoke at the last meeting in favor of redistricting. My thoughts haven't really changed. We are currently at the Goodyear School, and as one of the schools that is overcrowded, we don't want to change schools, but I also think that sticking with the current status quo would be absolutely untenable for the coming year. I brought my 2 children tonight because they both wanted to share their opinions on the redistricting process, so I'll let them introduce themselves.
My name is Sanjay Leftarakis Parthasarathi, and I, Sanjay Leftarakis Parthasarathi, would love to stay at my school. I'm a 4th grader at the Goodyear, and I would love to not get redistricted. I think it would be too hard to make a bunch of new friends and have to change schools 2 years in a row. I'm not asking just for myself, but for my fellow 4th graders that are getting redistricted. If you can figure out a way for us to stay at our schools without changing, that would be lovely. Please let us 4th graders stay at our schools. Thank you. Dear people of the Woburn School Committee, my name is Vasudeva Leftarakis Parthasarathi. I'm a 2nd grader going into 3rd grade. I'm at the Goodyear for my 2nd grade year, but you've already said there is no doubt I will change schools. Last week you decided I will go to the Shamrock. You've changed it so that there is a possibility I would go to the Malcolm Light. I would like to go to the Shamrock because the Malcolm Light is twice as far away from our house as the Shamrock, and I want to be able to ride my bicycle to school. Plus, all of my neighbors go to the Shamrock, and I've never gotten to go to school with them since I've been at the Goodyear. Overall, I would like to go to the Shamrock. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good job, girls.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to address the committee?
I have my crew with me.
No kids, though.
No kids. We already put them through enough last week, so we're leaving them out. My name is Ian Crawford. I teach at the Shamrock School, but I'm also the VP of our Shamrock PTO. My children have gone there, and I was on the PTO long before I had kids there. It's been something that I've been there 25 years, and with my kids there, I do have an extra stake in things, but we're talking about it as a board. So, dear school board members, we, the Shamrock School PTO, would like to take this opportunity to express our thanks for proposing a new Option 1 map, now known as Option 1A. This new map addresses our concerns and will bring economic equity to the Shamrock School. This option will enable us to continue for our current board to remain in place for next year so we can start planning as we do over the summer and allow us to continue to bring resources for enrichment and cultural programs to our students. The option promotes integration and fosters a more equitable environment for all of our students across the district. We are asking the school committee to pass this amendment to Option 1 to Option 1A, which allows the Shamrock School to retain its current students and the current streets in its school zone. Option 1A will reduce the economic disparity among the Woburn Elementary School and keep the Shamrock at its current 25.8%. It will level the amount of students receiving free and reduced lunch, which keeps us at 52.6% instead of raising it to 58.6%, which would make the Shamrock the highest among the elementary schools. This will lessen the burden of the educational disparities. It limits the impact on Shamrock students and their families. The original Option 1 would move 31 students from the Goodyear to the Shamrock and 32 students from the Shamrock to the Goodyear. Not that we would take any new Goodyear students to our school. This would allow our Shamrock families to stay put. Option 1A would create no additional impacts on other schools. We strongly believe that the work done by the committee found a more equitable and sustainable approach to Option 1 in suggesting Option 1A. Thank you for considering our perspective on this important issue in voting to pass the amendment of option 1 to the proposed option 1A being presented at tonight's meeting. Thank you, the Shamrock community.
Thank you very much. All right. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to address the committee? Thank you very much. I'd like to recognize City Council President Jeff Dillon. Ward 3 Council.
Thank you. Actually, in this particular case, I prefer to be recognized as Jeff Dillon, 63 Sheridan Street, not as City Council President, not as Ward 3 City Councilor, as a grandfather, as a father, as an uncle, as a neighbor, to all of which this redistricting will affect the people I care about. We were here not long ago, and we voted for option 1. It went through, there was a vote, it was thought out. 1A as well. I understand it. Let's look at it. What I'm concerned about is that we're having public comment before we know what the new lines are. I agree with Committee Member Cormier when she says, let's roll out the plan, let's show them what it is, and then take public comment. So we're saying we don't want to cause any more disruption, and I understand it. It's a sensitive subject to everybody involved. And I know everybody on this school committee. I know them personally, and I'm privileged to call them friends. Doesn't mean we can't disagree, but at the end of it, we'll still be friends. But again, my 2 problems are, we had a vote, we agreed on it, the chambers here were full of people. They were concerned. They left here with an understanding. I'm not so sure they have that understanding any longer. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would wish to speak? All right.
Hi, Rachel Kuberry, Blake Street. I'm not sure I've spoke before school committee without pre-written remarks, so bear with me. I just want to echo what Mr. Dillon said. I'm super confused about this meeting, hence I don't have remarks. I've paid very close attention, as you guys know. Even just listening to you talk at the beginning, I couldn't quite understand what we're talking about with motions and votes, and I just wanted to share that I had very clear understanding after the last meeting about what you voted on. I had looked closely at the materials that I received yesterday. I had very good understanding of what option 1A is. I've got questions, sure. You know that I've had reservations on the timeline all along. I've shared that from the moment we started talking about this, that the timeline's not new information. We need to redistrict, and that's hard. That's why we voted for you. If something changes today, I hope that that's not the case. I hope that more public has the chance to come into this room. Like Mr. Dillon said, the room was packed last week. And if we decide today or another day to not do the redistrict now, we need a stronger plan B. The plan B for the Harold-Wyman is not strong enough, and I suspect that's probably true for the other schools. I'm a Harold-Wyman parent. The plan B was really weak. When we talked about the redistrict and we asked about a plan B for the Harold-Wyman very early on, we said no matter what, even if we don't redistrict, we're going to move kids from the Harold-Wyman. And then the plan B plan moved no kids. Like, we're going to have to figure something out, and there's no time. So kudos to you. Thank you for doing the hard work. Thank you for being up here. I've said that to you guys all along. I'm super confused. I'll be less confused as I listen to the meeting, hopefully, and more this week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to address the committee?
So So, Christy Nickerson, I teach at the Alta Vista. I'm also a co-president of the WTA. I had no plans on making a public comment tonight, but I too was sort of confused / surprised by the conversation prior to public comment. The members of the WTA couldn't have less clarity if we tried about what's happening, whether employment status, retirement status, where they'll be working and for their assignment next year. We understand these decisions are hard, but decisions have to be made, and we have to start moving into making the decisions because we only have 12 school days left. People are trying to make major life decisions, some of whom are struggling with a lot of other things emotionally and making decisions at the same time. And we're placing them in a really bad position right now. So decisions are hard. I understand. I wouldn't want to sit in any one of your seats. But they have to be made, and we have to start making them. Because we can't continue in this plane of we're making a decision, we're changing a decision, we're not sure. We have to move forward at some point, and that point is now. We have to keep moving.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to address the committee tonight? Okay. Seeing no one, we are going to return to our next agenda item. So we are going to discuss redistricting further. I wonder if I think now would be a good time to take a look at option 1A, which went out to the public yesterday. Have the committee ask any questions that they feel the need to ask, and then we can talk about other redistricting issues that may arise or that have been discussed.
These slides going to be shown at all?
Is it? Oh. This is the document that was produced and sent out yesterday.
I think it might be useful at this point, as Ms. Cormier has said, to hear from administration about the reason why we added an additional option after the committee voted last Thursday, and sort of what led to this new revision of option 1, and some of the details about how it's being. So, Dr. Crowley.
Sure. The committee voted, as we've talked about on the 23rd, option 1, and then you voted again to allow us to look at, programs and any potential equity issues that might exist. And so, in consultation with the consultant,
I'm sorry, I just need to ask for clarification. Is there no sound on the video, or is it simply that?
It's fixed.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay. I was getting notifications that people couldn't hear things. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Maybe people put me on mute.
Yeah. We try.
So we, after the committee voted, like I was just saying, we looked at the programs first, and I will tell you, PALS came right away because moving the PALS out of the Reeves, while possible, there's some potential expense attached to it, as I alluded to earlier. You're also looking at, what was her name?
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, yeah. And a medically fragile population. So after you vote, we then started looking at programs. And then to the point also of, you just heard from Ms. Crawford, the concern with the percent at the Shamrock, free and reduced, exceeding, I believe Dr. McKibben referenced like a 15% threshold, and I think you, Ms. Cormier, and Mr. Lipset have talked, probably others as well, though I just remember a concern with having one school be a little, not a little, more disproportionately affected than others. So we've presented the conundrum, if you will, to the consultant and allowed the consultant to come up with potential solutions. What I can also tell you, though, is that the consultant is great. They don't work exclusively for the Woburn Public Schools. So it takes time, like we produce information for the consultant. They kick it back to us. We want to double, triple check it and make sure that it's accurate. And so that's been, it's an iterative process, and that's how that's done. It's not done quickly, and we are grateful for the consultant, but it's definitely a, it's not an immediate process. So those were the factors that led to option 1A being drafted.
Thank you. At this point, we can go through, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Ryan.
Just one of the clarifications that I just want to make sure that the committee is informed with respect to option 1A is that with putting the PALS program back at the Reeves, it of course has physical space. So what that means is that additional pre-K rooms that come online, we would then be looking to other buildings in the district. So I just want to be clear with that.
And just to clarify, what is the timeline, and obviously no one can see the future, but what is the timeline in terms of when you expect those new classrooms to potentially need to come online?
I would say we could potentially have another classroom online in January.
I think it's important to note that, so what it was that we had, that would really take up maybe the one floating room at the Reeves. But recognizing, I think when we looked at 1A, was that that within a year, even if we get the 10th into the Reeves, if there is a solution from the task force within a year, that's great. But if there's not, that's going to be an inevitable decision we have to make regardless in the future. Because then we will have to just start to expand it until we have a more permanent plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Tell me where you want me to go to the...
I think we need to understand the full scope of the report here.
Sure.
So we may want to go just at least briefly page by page so that the public understands what they're looking at.
Mm-hmm. So this is, I don't know, can people see it?
Yeah, there you go. And if I could just interrupt, members of the public who may be watching via YouTube, this is the exact presentation that was sent out via Remind yesterday. So if you have a computer with you, you can call this up and follow along with us. You can look on your phones in the audience as well. And this was sent out in English, in Portuguese and Spanish, and in Haitian Creole, so that we have the ability to take a look at it in at least the 4 largest languages in the Woburn Public Schools.
I can start.
I'm
so
sorry.
This document, for the most part, has not really changed.
Right.
I'm
Right.
happy. We're happy to go again. I guess I didn't want it to seem like you were getting something that was like you'd never seen any of these pages before. You have. Again, we're happy to go through. That was all that Ms. Chisholm was just asking for.
Okay, sorry, I just,
Sure.
yeah.
Yep.
I just saw Ms. Chisholm. That was fine.
Yeah. So again, you just.
I mean, I'm certainly happy to leave it to the discretion of administration in terms of what to present
Sure.
with this, in terms of what you feel is important. Mrs. Chisholm, you have
So if we're not going to be, or if we are going to make a vote tonight to put a pause button on this, why are we going to go through more of this? I mean, I appreciate all the work, and it's been hours and hours, but if we can take a vote and it's going to be paused, let's do it and start working forward to, yeah.
that is, if, I mean, at this point, if somebody wants to make that motion, we can talk about that motion. I'm proceeding with the regular order of business. Ms. West?
I'd actually like to hold on that motion only because I want to thank the public for their comment just recently. I think I needed to hear that. Waiting to redistrict for another year only means we have to wait longer to select a triage option, which is then going to put us back even further. It was a very good point. I think I was speaking emotionally. I apologize. While I think there are kinks to work out, and I know administration is very, very busy, but they said we can do it. And I think with that all being said, listening to what the public said, hearing from the Shamrock and hearing from the other schools, hearing from kids, and I even said it when I said we would be moving from option 1 to 1A to then doing nothing. That's a lot. That's a lot to understand. And even the public was confused about what we were saying. So in that regard, I would support still moving forward with the redistrict for this coming school year because we need to do something. As Ms. Crowley pointed out, art on a cart, kids in hallways, all the things that we've been talking about, to the reason why we're doing this is important. So I retract what I said earlier, and again, I apologize for any confusion on my end that might have caused to this meeting, but I do think it is important, and I believe that we will come up with a plan and we'll make this work.
Thank you, Ms. West. I don't think that there's any need to apologize. We are all trying to understand this. All right, so why don't we continue with looking at option 1A.
So ultimately, the first page was that the capacities for 1 and 1A do not change. What we had put in as the asterisk for reference when moving forward was understanding, again, this is a lot of where programmatic placement, programmatic growth, is taken into account. That the Goodyear School, which is will have the GAIN program and potentially the assessment center, that is as a 12 classroom school, as it cannot hold the program and be an 18, but it can hold more than 12. And I say that is because it's a building that you know can handle bubbles. So when it's just kind of looking at it with caution when looking at the utilization numbers, is it's doing it off of a 12%, but it's because it's one of those buildings that you can't write it to be a 16, right? So it's just how that looks, that's all.
I appreciate that.
Sure. So when moving forward again, really, again, we're looking at utilization numbers as we move forward. Option 1 and option 1A. Look at similar enrollment shifts. The change that had been made on 1 to 1A, and again, we're working through diligently on verification and validation of maps. And what's important to know about that is that, we certainly, have gone through everything in the process of this, but there's also, as I don't think anyone will be surprised, there's some, I guess, gray streets that over time have gone one way over deals that we've made in terms of certain directions, and we're just trying to make sure that they're calculated in the right place. The gray spaces that we've had in the community, one being an apartment complex between the Linskin and Alta Vesta that's been shared, that we had to go through and reflect where students actually are as to not redistrict them, because it kind of moved the whole spot into one location, and as we went through line by line, we ended up moving them to the correct space. That adjustment is made in 1A, as well as families that had been, again, another kind of gray space had been between the Goodyear and the Alta Vesta, and those were returned back to their home school. So that basically is just saying that the maps would not have shown in one that students were moving, because that's where the pocket is, but we're just making sure that it reflects the actual plan, which was to have those students remain where they are. I hope that makes sense. I
Thank
can
you.
go-
And I also just want to pause for a moment
Sure.
and thank both you and Ms. Ryan and Dr. Crowley for the round-the-clock work that I know that you've been putting into a lot of this, and I don't want that to go unnoticed.
So just an example of that, if I could,
Sure.
is the Avalon.
Yes.
That is currently at the Goodyear, and you're saying that it would remain at the Goodyear because.
And the intention had been for it to remain at the Goodyear. The intention was not, that's the apartments, or area that had been kind of redistricted shortly after students had moved in, and our intention was not to redistrict it back. And so we had it obviously in the numbers that it wasn't, but the map reflected it otherwise. And so we're just going through and validating that the map is as set to. And again, all of these things are things that in a longer process would not be things that we are doing as we go. We're just making sure that, as we move forward, that we're ensuring that everything here is validated and verified. So that is where you'll see kind of some of the shifts and adjustments. And we're working through building by building to make some of those. For example, there's, there was a few students who we had counted as knowing they were going to be at the Malcolm White, but for some reason it was showing that they were at the Shamrock. We're just kind of fixing those to not be accidentally redistricting as we did. As we go forward, you can keep going. This is just looking at estimated enrollment by grade. This is where I will say that our building by building, it's not that we're necessarily saying it's going to be this drastic swings, but we're just making sure that students that should be at the Goodyear are at the Goodyear, and kind of double checking through the counts. With that, moving forward we'll just go through the demographics. This was ultimately the reason that we had been asked to go back and ask the consultant to look at the maps, was to the best extent possible, see if there was any way within existing lines that had been previously drawn in any of the maps, that there was another way that it could be looked at. The map was produced for us by the consultant, and that's the map that we provided for you today. And again, as we've said through this whole process, we just want to be transparent with what we have. We asked them to do this. We got the map, and we want to make sure that you have it. Moving forward. This is just showing student movement and student counts, and where students have moved from building to building. And again, we just want to be clear that we are still verifying and validating these numbers, so that as to when you tell us to go, that when we inform families, that we've ensured that we're informing everyone that should know. And again, this is all standard practice to a redistrict. We're just doing this at a very late pace, which is fine. I think again, these are things that would be happening in any sense, and things that we would anticipate in any redistrict effort. And again, the middle school, they're from 1 to 1A. The only change would be there would be less student movements from 1 to 1A in the middle schools. And when we go to the maps, I can show you where that is. All right, here's our map as this is. If you scroll down, you can keep going. Thank you. This is the map as voted. Again, this map is still operational. This is just so that, in full transparency, when asked to provide a map that provided potential more equitable distribution, the consultant provided us option 1A, and that's what we provided for you to see today. If you want to keep going. And now you can see the kind of funny green part that just clarifies the movement there. And then there was just the 2 pockets that had been at the top of the Malcolm White map, that those, again, as we had asked the consultant to not touch anything on the map that had not previously been part of any conversations, those 2 pockets were a consideration in one of the previous maps, and that's why he recommended those 2 again. Again, this was our request of him. This is what he's provided for us and for your review. And then if you keep moving just a little bit further, this is the current middle school map. Option 1, you'll see there's movement from both the Joyce and the Kennedy. This is to change the splits. As you'll recall in option 1, that little part of the Shamrock district that goes to the Goodyear, that is being districted to the Kennedy because that is to keep the whole Goodyear school together. And then the last one is just if we did not do that, we would then, of course, just go back to the line in order to not split the school. It's kind of quick.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Questions for administration on the school assignments for option 1A?
Well, I'll go at it again. Just for people saying that they are happy and they heard from people tonight. And the Shamrock, I'm thrilled that they get their school back and they're happy and they came and I appreciate their support. But as we sit here right now, we've gotten emails from parents that are just finding out that they're being moved. And they did not know that because they thought we were going with the one and we're happy. So there are people out there that are asking us and begging us to stop this so that they could all take part and be involved. And we promised people from the get-go that we would listen to them. And what I've been hearing coming forward is to slow this train down. And I was supportive of getting this, the consultant on board to do this for us, to know what we have to do. And the hours that have been spent is amazing. But until we know our bottom line, it scares the hell out of me. Because we could be having teachers being moved around the system, that we're going to have to add additional costs to be moving them. We don't know that. We don't know if we're going to be adding buses, if we're taking kids from the Malcolm White and sending them to the Goodyear. That's going to be additional bus routes that we're going to add for kids that usually walk to school. So we don't know what we're doing. So I think doing this at this late in the game is wrong. And it's going to hurt people, and people are going to be left behind, and it's not a good thing. I mean, we have a budget crisis on our hands, and I think that we need to, stop this so we don't have to deal so much with this, and then move forward and handle our budget. I mean, we have, the number we have is 181 students that are going to be moved, but how many of those are fifth graders that we promised they could stay at their school? And how will that affect the schools themselves? I mean, if they do stay, the numbers can be tossed all over the place, and we may end up having to add staff, not delete staff. And, it's been said tonight, everybody's emotions are going crazy right now because so many balls are in the air, and they don't know what they're going to do with their lives because they thought they were going to be retiring, and some of them are going to pull back because they're not happy with what they're hearing around town. And it's frightening to me that we're doing this late in the game. I mean, if this was fine and we'd already had our budget and we knew we had money that we could assist these teachers and add bus routes when necessary, I'd be all for it. But this late, I just think that it's not fair. And like I say, we just already got 2 emails from people from the Malcolm White that now won't be at the Malcolm White. And they're not happy that we're making this decision. We're not, and knowing that they're being changed, they just found out today. So and I know that we're trying to do the best we can, but it scares me.
Thank you. I do want to just clarify for the public that we are not intending to take any action on option 1A tonight. We have posted a meeting for Wednesday night. The sole agenda item on that meeting is to vote on option 1A. There are other operational concerns with redistricting that we need to go through tonight, but we wanted to give the public a chance to hear us digest and discuss option 1A, respond to that, come to us again on Wednesday night where there will be public comment, and make their voices heard there as well before we make a decision on this. So what and I'll come back to this, Courtney, in a minute, but just to make sure that everyone's clear, we are making sure with a very tight timeline and as best we are able to hear from the public on the revisions that we have before us. We have voted option 1. That is the current path forward. This could be something that we choose to look at on Wednesday night as a different path forward. We will have continued discussions tonight. Right. So I just wanted to make all of that clear for the public, for the committee, before we continue. Okay? Ms. Cormier.
Thank you. That was part of my comment, was to make sure that people understood, 24 hours ago they found out that they might be redistributed. Some it seems, weren't getting the reminds, perhaps. And so I did want to make sure that people had an opportunity to, like you say, digest, not just in 24 hours. We have gotten some emails so far. We've read all the emails. And people were unhappy with option 1 through 5. People who were affected by option 1 were unhappy. People who are affected by 1A can be unhappy too. And I sympathize with them. I came to Woburn in 4th grade, and I was the new kid who was moved there and didn't know anybody, and I understand how it feels. I guess I want to also discuss 5th grade while we're here tonight to see what that would look like. I wonder if we grandfathered, is that everybody gets grandfathered, or is that a choice, and how does that look? Because understanding that would adjust the numbers. So if you say 5th graders are grandfathered in, does that mean they are all going to stay at their current schools? Or is that something that they have the option to do, and what does that look like operationally? So that was something I wanted to make sure we talked about tonight. But I do want to I would like to hold any votes till Wednesday, once we have more chance for the public to get the word.
Okay. So, hearing that, I think right now what I would like to make sure that we're doing before we move into other areas is making sure that we have fully understood option 1A, thereby also giving the public a chance to fully understand option 1A, and then we can talk about other issues, including, for example, 5th grade. Are there other questions for administration regarding option 1A and the school assignments?
Not necessarily a question, just kind of want to piggyback on Ms. Chisholm. I still feel that we're moving too quickly. And going off of what we see, we can tell that we're moving too quickly based off of people are confused, emotions are rattled. The decision that has been made almost immediately, a new decision was made after the vote was made. A new decision was made after that. So that right there tells you that we're moving too quickly, because when a decision is made, you should be firm with it and consistent, and this is what it is, let's keep moving. But instead, a decision was made, let's pause and make a new decision based off of that decision. That to me really states that we're moving too quickly. Initially, I would have voted for option 1 if it was between 1 through 5. I would have been, as I said before, but when plan B was the option, I thought, you know what, maybe we should take a step and move back a little and process. And I'll say this again, and I feel like I'm repeating myself. There's a good thing in waiting. Waiting allows the process to be made clear. Waiting, some of the best meals come with waiting. And I'm thinking about how Tom Brady, I know those are my Patriots fans, or he would move out of the pocket slowly. He would concisely think. And when there's an audible, usually that's rattled. It's kind of like a decision made hastily, quickly. Also, with waiting, it allows motion to be processed. I think another year is not a bad option, considering how the length that we have waited. I had art on a cart. We ate meals in my classroom. I didn't turn out so bad. I joke. But I think if we continue to move so fast, and I'm not shaming anyone, I just think that maybe we have to have a plan 1B, a plan 1C. I think that's the proof that we're moving fast, because then we have to reconsider. We didn't acknowledge that this school's going to have too many children of a certain criteria, and now we have to pause and go backwards and then ask the admin team to do even more work. And I did hear Ms. Young say that with the pace, she, I don't want to quote, but she kind of emphasized that we're moving fast, and I heard that. And so I just want to give my 2 cents that I think we are moving a little too fast. I don't think waiting is a bad option, considering that we waited 20 plus years. I think waiting a little longer would not be so detrimental. And I'll leave it there.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Wetzel and then Mr. Moran.
Thank you. Sure, in a perfect world, we could wait a year, but then we wouldn't be doing a service to the students that are in our buildings now, that are in our buildings this fall. We would be allowing these kids to be educated in a hallway where they can be distracted by a child walking down the door. We'd have people walking on IEP meetings that don't have a dedicated space to be held because there isn't one at the building. We'd be potentially losing a library at a school where some kids don't go to our public library because their parents can't take them, various reasons. So then how were they checking out books? They can't. We would have overcrowded schools, overcrowded classrooms in some of our buildings. And not to mention, we would still have to move some children in some of our buildings because we just don't have the space for incoming kindergarten. So regardless, we'd still be moving children. So I just think time's a luxury, and that's not a luxury we have right now. And I think that we need to come together as a team and make this work for our students and for our staff because they deserve it. They deserve the best that we have to offer, and we can do this, we can make this happen and make it as less confusing for the public as possible by over-communicating and making sure everybody understands what's going on. On that note, I do think, and I've heard this, a street list would be really helpful because I know the maps are very small and hard to read. So you can zoom in and then look at another map and kind of figure it out, but I think it would be helpful for families, especially on those borderlines, if we had a street list to help with some of the confusion there, because I do think that's sort of playing into it. And I agree with what Ms. Crowley said about rising fifth graders. I'd love to understand how many students that we have are rising fifth graders, what buildings they're in, and how we might address that, and whether that could be maybe the child would like to move for various reasons. They have their best friends at another school, and it's great. Or maybe they prefer to stay there. I think that that's something we should absolutely look at. It has been a concern from a lot of families, the rising fifth grade population. So those are kind of my 2 cents on the timeline, and with respect to it being quick, it needs to be, because we just can't keep going the way we are. It is unfair to the kids and the teachers and anybody else in that building. So that's where I stand.
Thank you, Ms. Wenzel. Mr. Moran, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could, way back when this process began, I was one person that asked to please pump the brakes, slow it down. It's too much, too quick, coming at you. I agreed, sit through the process. The process brings us to tonight. We had option 1, as indicated. Now we have option 1A. By Wednesday night, we could have option 1A/B/C. Who knows? Lots of figures are brought up tonight. Lots of factors have been brought up tonight. The confusion factor by the WTA itself. The unknown factors that people are still questioning in their emails, legitimately. The public still have, this evening, very, very concerned issues, what's going on. Perhaps Ms. Wetzel's right. If you could zoom in on the street, well, I live at number 22. Am I going or am I staying? We don't know that. And that's what we don't know this evening. Are you or are you not moving? That has to be known to these people that are just finding out that these votes are being taken. Early Childhood Center, great idea. Fantastic. Love to see it come to Woburn. We're not sure where that stands this evening. We're not sure where it's going to stand Wednesday evening. The 5th grade, again, that issue's always come. Can I stay in my school? That's where all my friends are. I want to stay. And to Ms. Chisholm's point, well, if you stay, then how do we bus you just to your school and the others have to still get moved? The budget. I don't even want to get started on the budgetary issues of all that's going on, which is just an unknown number at the city council level, which we're not getting for another week or so. So I really, really, again, like I said, day one, and I've been sitting back, listening to all sides of the story this evening and all issues. I said it right up there. I said redistricting, as long as I was sitting here, was never something we could talk about. We're talking about it. We're about ready to do it, whether it's 1, 1A, 1B, 1C, but it's still not the right time right now. To the points about, is it a disgrace that our students are living the way they are? Yes, it is. But we were presented with a trauma, plan B. If all else fails, we can kind of make these things, happen over the summer and deal with the expenses of all that and, not disrupt a whole bunch of people, giving us more and more time, the administration more and more time, set up as many task force as you need, individual task force in the elementary schools to set up their ideas, their thoughts, their plans, and to get their comments answered. The comments haven't been answered tonight about the Early Childhood Center, the 5th grade, the whole middle school. Yeah, we have a map. We don't really know for sure what that map means at the middle school level. And those are concerns as well moving down the road. So I just wanted to be perfectly clear that, you know, I was opposed to this originally. I sat back, I listened. I'm still of the idea of pumping the brakes a little bit. Unfortunately, going to the triage, Plan B, disaster plan, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, it's a lot of confusing factors that people want answers. And when we get an email, it's really, you know, it's a shame and almost embarrassing that we don't have the answer with, you know, 2 weeks left in school. These principals, you know, they're planning cookouts and field days and activities and all the fun stuff that these students should be enjoying instead of, well, where am I going next year, Mommy? Where am I going? What bus am I on? Am I going to be with Jimmy next year? Am I going to be with Andrew? What's happening? And unfortunately, they don't know. Not that, you know, the triage plan or the Plan B will fix all of that, but I think it'll calm things down a little bit moving forward. So, again, you've heard from me enough over the time being here tonight, but again, I just want to emphasize those points once again, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Members, it feels right now like we're debating a motion that hasn't been made. I would like, please, if we could, to make sure that we have exhausted questions and comments about option 1A that has been presented by administration. Are there other comments or concerns regarding this school assignment? And Ms. Young, go ahead.
Sure. I just want to provide an answer to a question I feel like it's been asked a few times.
Yeah.
So the total number of students, and again, it's approximate because depending on 1 and 1A, it differs, but not by a great number. We're looking at about 45 rising fifth graders, but that includes our students who are also in different programs throughout the district. With that, the conversation that we've had through our operation, when operationalizing with the principals, so specifically those of the impacted buildings, was that we felt at this time relatively comfortable with having students being potentially grandfathered in. However, we would ask that we would seemingly be sending out a survey as soon as we know the direction that we're going in, asking parents intent. We could not make a guarantee until we saw what that number was, in part because in some ways it makes a difference if like everybody goes or everybody stays or we split in terms of kind of, you know, we're on the kind of the bubble of classroom numbers, and we certainly don't want to start having this be adding a ton of new rooms. That's not the intention. But we would feel comfortable going forward with the first step of asking the, you know, what caregivers' plans were, and then sitting down and looking at the numbers from there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Okay. So let's take these one at a time. Are there additional questions or comments regarding option 1A from the committee? Ms. Crowley.
Well, I just want to react positively to option 1A. I think it's, I was concerned about the change in demographics of the Shamrock, so I think that alleviates that. I also like this plan because although it moves a number of students to the Reeves also has enough space should we need a modular classroom. And I believe those are my only two comments, but this is why I thought that the redistrict plan as presented in option 1 was a really good option for us, as it creates, it makes that Reeves space doable. And I remember that the feasibility study, one of the recommendations is to build an ECP on the Reeves site. So if need be, that could be an option. Of course, that's not going to be a year, but at least to have that going on. So, but I really appreciate the administration taking a look at that Shamrock issue, because I think that was really troubling. And other than that, I just wanted to express my gratitude.
Thank you very much. All right. So, any other comments about option 1A?
I don't know if it could be possible, but could we have the cost of busing, additional busing that we'll need, so that it can be?
So the I don't like to give like middle of the road answers, but I feel like I'm living in it a little bit until we have actualization in place. When in preliminary meetings with our building principals, when looking at busing, it is our belief to the best extent possible that in terms of kind of the spaces in which are moving, that we would be losing a bus due to that movement, and that bus would then be transferred to the new route. Okay. With that, I will say that there are buses across the community that are already, as in existence, very crowded. And so there was a potential conversation around additional buses regardless of this. And so there are routes that we will need to have that kind of those considerations, whether we make this decision or not. But in terms of our best extent possible, in terms of the spaces that have moved, we really are going to be working to just kind of see if we can just kind of transfer that loss of bus from one place to transfer it to the gain of where it would have to go. But I think as a whole, recognizing that there are already some very crowded buses.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone doesn't see it come by.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Cormier.
While we're talking about buses, I just wanted to throw it out there that if you are talking about adding and changing, if it was possible, I'm not asking a question, I'm putting the idea out there. If it was possible to add stops for the Boys and Girls Club from the various schools that don't currently have them, I just wanted that to be on the radar while you're having those conversations.
So we have had the preliminary conversations again regarding the before and after care, and certainly that might be a conversation for another day in a larger scope. But there is before and after school options provided for any student. Some of it is that for example, we have the YMCA in certain buildings, and so we're also trying to be respectful of kind of which programs are in which spaces. And so that's kind of some of the reason for that piece of it.
And the potential does exist as we reroute to look at different stops. So, it's not something that we're dismissive of. So
I don't know if it costs to add a stop, but
No.
it seems like a lot of them drive by to go back to where they came from, so I thought that might be.
No, the bus is the bus, and the cost is a cost.
Okay.
Some of it's a function of time and also capacity, because, kids going somewhere after school would be different than the number of kids coming to school.
Yes.
And so we don't want to overcrowd based on that.
Makes sense.
Thank you. All right.
Wait, I have one more.
Yes, Mrs. Chisholm.
Staff change, do we know the number of staff that will be, with this option, be rerouted or changing schools?
So one is that, and again, I've spoken to the co-president, Mr. Kisin, who's here this evening, and we plan to meet on this Wednesday afternoon. And so I think that for a few reasons, we want to confirm where the bubble rooms will go, and before we kind of make any kind of definitive.
I'm not going to hold you to two from the school, three from the
Sure.
school, but just to have an idea of how much more we're going to have to supply teachers with additional aid, or like, when we moved schools before, we gave teachers like that last day not to do anything with students and
Sure.
pack up and move and change and whatever.
Yes. I guess the best answer to that question is that within both of these options, there are staff who will have to move.
Okay.
That number, is been around, that has been hovering around the same, space for a while. But I think that ultimately we are still confirming where bubble rooms will have to be, and we really want to make sure that we verify and validate with all of the building principals so that we know that everyone is in the right seat, in the right place. But we certainly have a meeting on the books for us to work through that this week.
Okay, thank you. All right. So, at this point, I think we can think about different operational considerations. I know that decisions do need to be made, or at least preliminarily discussed, but given the agenda that is posted for Wednesday, probably made tonight, on whether or not the committee is going to look at moving forward on 5th grade and authorizing administration to move forward in the way that they best see fit on that. Looking at middle school assignments and any other discussions that members want to have about the redistricting plan. Are there discussions that members would like to enter into on any of this? Ms. Crowley.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if 5th grade is under our purview, because I would be concerned that we would be making a policy about grandfathering in 5th graders when specific children and programs would not be moved. So I don't know if we can make those kinds of decisions. I think that's an operational decision protocol that admin makes. I don't think we can vote to grandfather 5th graders into certain schools.
Okay.
But that's just my opinion.
Dr.
I
Crown?
don't know if anyone
I don't know if you had.
disagrees or agrees.
No, I think it is an operational item. And to Ms. Young's point earlier, we have had preliminary conversations relative to how that would look. And so we can do that. There's been a question, and I want to try to answer it, relative, if we do the 5th grade option and allow them to stay, a couple different things. One is, we think that we should provide transportation if they are staying at their home school, because there's an access issue. But the other factor, just to kind of put out there, is if there's siblings, the siblings couldn't stay. So that's why there should be a choice for families to make that decision.
Okay. Mr. Moore.
Thank you. Again, just for consideration for the administration between now and Wednesday, additional support staff as needed when these, students may or may not need additional nursing staff, paras, teachers' aides. If perhaps the school that gets another bubble, they may need more, cafeteria workers, another custodian. I don't know how that all plays into future discussions, but just make sure that, other additional personnel and matters that, kind of like what if considerations have to be put out there, so we have some answers moving forward. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Braun. All right. Ms. Watson.
This was actually brought up to me by a parent, and I thought it was a wonderful idea. A way to track how the redistrict is going and what's going on, like the life inside of our buildings. And I know administration is doing that, but I think her point was to just sort of forward thinking, making sure this plan that we have in place is going well, everything is running smooth, so we can, maybe avoid tight timelines on other things.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Thank you.
So,
Sorry.
Yeah, if I could I agree. We should, but this is our reality.
Yeah, no,
And
I
so,
totally understand. I just,
that's
the perfect world.
Yeah.
I 100% understand. I just felt
Yeah.
inclined and
Yeah.
felt to bring it forward as it was something mentioned to me.
Yeah, no, I think ideally that's something we would want to do.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that, I think there is a lot of communication happening already. I'm not accusing that of not happening. I just think her rationale was just making sure we're all talking. Yeah.
That's fair. All right. The biggest question that remains right now in terms of things that we have anticipated coming up is middle school, and which students the committee would choose or vote to redistrict, and which we may not. My understanding of the choice, I'll let administration speak to some of the options that might exist for the committee here.
Yeah. So, the option for middle school, we work with the middle school principals as well. The recommendation and with them is to redistrict upcoming rising 6th graders into the new middle school and allow current 6th and 7th graders to remain, so that if they at their current school.
And we believe that we could also do transportation could be provided.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that,
Ms. Corman.
is that something we would make a motion on at this time, or?
It certainly could be, yes.
I would then like to make a motion to adopt what admin just announced, where we would move rising 6th graders into the new school per the map chosen, and then current 6th and 7th graders, rising 7th, 8th, would remain at their current school.
Okay.
On the motion,
It's just.
why is
Do I
that different than 5th graders?
Nobody seconded anyway.
I know.
We do need to wait for a second for on the motion.
I
Do
will
we have a
second that.
Okay. Can I just clarify, Dr. Crowley?
No, versus like on the operational side of the
Yeah.
aisle. Is that what you're asking?
Well, it's like we
Right.
were just told we don't vote for 5th graders, but now we're moving for 6th graders. So we would be moving 5th graders too. So it's just that if we're going to vote on one, we need to vote on both, or we don't vote.
And if we don't want to make, say, we're going to keep fifth graders, but yet we'll keep the seventh and eighth graders. I don't know what the difference is.
I think the fundamental difference is that our policy gives us authority over school attendance areas based on administration's recommendation, so that middle school and which students are going to which middle schools would be a school committee decision, whereas exceptions to any redistricting for current fifth graders would not be a school attendance area issue, but sort of an individualized issue. That is my read on the potential difference.
Okay, I'll check into it before Wednesday.
So I want to clarify, right, on Wednesday, the only thing on our agenda is a vote for option 1A, whether or not we are going to move forward with that.
Right.
That would mean, and the reason why I put votes possible on the agenda for tonight for this agenda item, is that we would deal with other operational issues now, and then apply them to option 1A should that be the direction forward.
Right.
So other decisions that the committee may choose to make tonight would have to be made tonight, and then we can, or pushed out further than Wednesday. But I think middle school and school attendance areas on middle school is one of those that I anticipated coming to a vote tonight.
Okay, I wish I knew that, but okay.
Was there a second?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
On the motion?
On the motion, Ms. Rowe.
Again, public comment, we've heard lots from elementary parents and elementary staff and elementary confusion and other matters. This motion this evening regarding the middle school, I believe, again, not sure how many middle school parents are paying attention to what's going on. A lot of our elementary school parents are really keen on it, which we really appreciate that. I think the middle school, again, just like tonight, people weren't even sure there was votes coming up. They just got these maps yesterday. I would have to entertain the motion and see how the vote goes, but I would like to hold off on that. Again, holding off, putting it off, but it just seems as though the public should be more aware of the middle school options that may be presented, but that's just, again, an opportunity for the public to have their say, but I'm fine either way.
Okay, and on the motion, we're going to provide transportation, so we could have possibly 2 buses going to the same location?
So for the middle school?
Yeah.
So part of it is, and if you go to the map, so for example, there's actually bus stops now, and this is what we looked through, that because of the lines that are pretty close to each other, and then the distance in which middle school students could walk to the bus stop functions differently than an elementary school. And so we feel comfortable that if, for example, there's a current stop at the Harold Wyman Elementary School, so many of the students who opted to remain at the Kennedy would be able to walk to the Harold Wyman from that space. So we feel that we would be able to make the stops work in that area. They already right now are pretty close.
Yeah. Well, the Harold Wyman kids, don't they walk to school, the Kennedy?
So there's
Most of them do.
Yes, but because we're looking down in that space, they could walk. Again, I will say that when speaking to both middle school principals, they felt that the way that their bus routes went, that we would be able to work in spots, that they stopped, that they would make sense.
The section where the Malcolm Lake kids were from Kilby Street to Main Street to Woburn Center, they already walked to the Kennedy anyway.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley.
I trusted them more on these spots than I can speak to them, but they told me they could.
Until they can't.
They told me they could.
Well, people tell a lot of stuff and it doesn't come true, but we'll work on it. Okay.
All right. Ms. Corbett.
Yes, thank you. So I understand Mr. Mulrenan's reservation, but to that point, the rising sixth graders, the parents are aware that we are changing the lines, and if the rising seventh and eighth graders' parents weren't, there wouldn't be a change for them, is what I am proposing. So that is why I think this has been a conversation, and I don't know how much of that changes from 1 to 1A. But as we are voting right now, it is just going forward, whatever is going to be the list is going to determine that. So,
is there a clarification I can provide?
no, I was just saying that the people are presumably, if you have a rising sixth grader, you know that we are redistricting and that you are the one affected. If 7th and 8th wasn't paying attention, they aren't changing.
And my interpretation of your motion was that we would take this action and that it would be applied whichever option we wind up going with.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other comments on that motion? Ms. Crowley?
We haven't actually picked a map, though.
Right,
This
really hasn't been discussed.
So we can't really talk about sixth graders yet until we've actually picked a map, I think. I don't know.
It doesn't have to be a conversation today.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like anything's going to change today.
I think you should withdraw your motion.
All right. So our agenda for Wednesday reads a vote on option 1A. I guess it is a fair interpretation that we would, when we come to a vote on option 1A, we are either we can adopt a middle school plan based on that, or we can hold with the middle school plan based on option 1. So, that having been said, there is a motion and a second on the table. So if anyone, so that is, as it has been seconded, we do need to move on that motion. I would say that if members would like to hold off on that decision until Wednesday, that they would be advised to vote no on that motion. But the motion has been called and seconded. So is there any other discussion on that motion? Okay. All in favor of adopting administration's recommendation for middle school lines, say aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, we're going to need a roll call. Dr. Crowley?
Mr. Austin?
No.
Ms. Chisholm?
No.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. Crowley?
No.
Mr. Morenin?
No.
Ms. Wetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Lipset?
No. Okay. So we will hold off. We will revisit the middle school discussion on Wednesday when we look at this map again. All right. Does administration have other operational issues that they need us to decide on regarding redistricting tonight?
And I think we're working to that once you tell us the direction that we'll be able to have verified and validated maps as expeditiously as possible.
Okay. Is there anything else that the committee or that any member would like to bring forward?
Wrapping up the Kennedy food drive and the fire victims?
We can briefly talk about that. Why don't you talk about the Kennedy food drive?
I don't have it in front of me. Where's that email? The reference I'm making this morning, we don't have it on correspondence, but we received an email from Mr. Kyle Nelson and Mr. Kevin Battle over at the Kennedy Middle School about their backpack program and the services they've been providing to their students over at the Kennedy. We'll just give Mr. Lipson a minute to look it up.
Of course, my computer is not turning on at this
Well, I see Ms. Cormier has it in front of her.
There we go.
In 2023-2024, the Kennedy Middle School received 6,952 total pounds of food, equivalent to approximately 5,793 meals, valued at $13,416. In total, 171 volunteer yes hours were dedicated to sorting and delivering food to the Kennedy Middle School. And because of the partner food link and private donations from staff, they were able to provide our backpack families far more than they did in the last 2 years.
I just want to applaud Mr. Nelson and Mr. Battle over at the Kennedy for their efforts with the Food Link program and helping out our deserving families of the Kennedy Middle School. And I don't know if Mr. Lipset, there has been a recent family suffered a fire loss over in Richmond Park recently. And if someone could reference my memory again, there is a fund drive and a clothing drive and matters that they do need over, I believe, the Malcolm White and here at the Joyce, Mr. Quayle. Yes. So if anybody in the audience tonight, obviously it's been kind of a crazy meeting. It's not on the agenda, but the families that were affected by the fire recently could always use gift cards, clothing, whatnot. Reach out to either Ms. Nickerson or Mr. Quayle here at the Joyce for those families' needs. Show you desire as we finish up the school year. So just wanted to get that out there.
They can drop off at either office.
Okay. So I drop-offs available at any one of the schools for what they may need. So I appreciate any efforts for those folks who suffered that fire. Thank you, Mr. Lipson. Sorry.
Nope. Thank you very much, Mr. Morenin, for bringing that up. And thank you, principals, for helping to organize that. And I know we have a member of the Malcolm White PTO in the audience. I know the Malcolm White PTO has been involved in gathering resources for the students involved as well. So thank you. Please. Okay. Thank you very much. That is a very important point.
There you go. See that?
We are not in need of more clothing at this time for this.
How about the Joyce? You good?
We don't need any more clothing, we get bags and bags.
Good, good. Yeah, that's what Woburn's about, as we have the councils here tonight, and everybody's aware of what Woburn's about. That fire recently occurred, and here we are this evening telling folks, clothing is all set. Gift cards and other items, we're more than happy to accept, but that's Woburn for you, so I appreciate all of that effort.
Okay. Unless there's any other business?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Second. Motion to adjourn. I have a second. All in favor?
Wednesday.
All right.
At 7 o'clock, the 5th.
Yep, 3 more emails telling us to slow down,
Thank you.
but we don't listen. I hope not. Great.
This register is not my blood pressure for this meeting.